It's an exciting one today. I've already been busy, and I want to show you what I've already tackled this morning. But I'm most excited about what's going to come later. First, let me show you what I've been doing. Of course, it's all about mounting the motors and getting the tires on ROVer. To do that, we need a way of actually connecting physically the motors to ROVer, and that's where this piece comes in. So here you have the 3D printed bracket, and then here's the plate that goes on top into that bracket. And then I've been thinking about different options for how to actually attach. And looking back at ROVer, I wasn't really happy with that longer channel. The one that you see here, it adds too much bulk. So I opted for this smaller one, which I think was going to work really well. So here you see it actually on the motor mount. And finally, we have it in place here. So now it's really the next step is attaching the motors to those new brackets. So that's what I got to finish up and actually get the motors mounted on the chassis. But hopefully, if that doesn't take me too long and I don't run into too many problems, or kind of the wrong length of screw or something like that, then hopefully we get to this today. So stay tuned. So it occurs to me that as I'm preparing to mount the motors, that we never really talked about how I came up with the design for these legs. And it's a different approach than what you see on a lot of kind of Mars rover type replica projects. Typically, the leg won't have this mechanism. It will be fixed. Whether you're looking at a 4-wheel replica or a 6-wheel replica with the kind of bogie system for the 2 front or 2 back wheels on each side. With this swing arm design, the problem that you run into is with the turning of the wheel. So a key factor in if you want the wheel to turn with a servo, kind of like the Mars rover does, the servo needs to be directly above the wheel, directly above the center of the wheel. In my case, in ROVer's case, the motor will be mounted as such. There we go, that's better. So the motor will be mounted like this, with the center of the tire here. Outside the center of the servo. The problem that presents, and I didn't actually realize this at the time when I was designing it, not kind of fully understanding or appreciating the design of the Mars rovers. Obviously, they're NASA scientists, but in doing what they did, they ensured that when the servo turns, the tire turns on its axis. With my design, where the tire is outside here, so basically when the servo rotates, the tire is actually needing to roll forward or roll backwards with the servo moving. The additional complication is when the servo is not holding the tire, the wheel will want to roll back if it's moving forward, or will want to roll forward if it's moving backwards. So the problem that presents is when the servo is not active, the part that turns with the motor needs to somehow lock. And I would say that, well, let me look at you and explain this. So you may be wondering, why then would I not just change the design to be like the Mars rover? And the answer, well, the simple answer, the short answer is because I don't want to. I want to do something different. And in my design, I want the I want to be able to change the position of the wheels. If the wheel is always directly under the servo that controls its rotation for turning, then the wheel always has to remain in that position. If the wheel is to one side, then I can actually rotate the wheel around onto the other side. So for example, I can have the wheels outside, kind of a wide stance when I want it for, you know, outdoors, more stability, something like that. And then when ROVer is indoors, where I don't want him to be so broad and take up so much room, then I can roll the wheel inside to be kind of underneath him. And it would make for a much more compact robot. So that was my design, that was my goal. I didn't realize the complication that it presented with the servos, and now that I appreciate that complication, I'm basically committed to trying to figure out a solution to make it work. And I've got a bunch of ideas, and I think one of them will work. But let me get back to the motor mounts. So as I was saying, now if you can appreciate the reasons for why I designed it this way, or at least take my word for it that it'll be cool once it's done. That all being said, I don't want to tackle the servo control just yet. So as I mentioned in a previous video episode, for the time being, I'll just set it up for differential drive, meaning the left side runs one direction, the other side runs the opposite direction for ROVer to turn. Kind of like the tracks on a tank. So for the time being, this part is just locked to this upper foot, leg part. So they're just screwed together. In the future, this section will rotate independently of this section, controlled by the servo, using a keyed shaft like this, which locks into the servo there. Will extend down through here and lock into this lower leg box area. In here I'll have what I think will work for the mechanism to lock this and unlock this when I don't need the servo to function at all. And when it's locked, it should be secure, but I don't know, we'll see, that's the theory. But that's the design right now, and so I just need to finish this connection at all four corners, and we can get the tires on. He's looking really good. All four motors are on. We've got all the, well, for now, the 2 forward ultrasonic sensors. And then in the center there on his, I don't know, nose, we've got the IR distance sensor. Looks really clean. I'm quite happy with how it's coming out. Unfortunately, I still have to run a couple more tests on the motors, and it's easier to do that with the tires off, so I think the tires are going to have to wait until another day, hopefully tomorrow. But he's looking awesome. I'm thrilled. Yeah, so no tires today. I've got to run another test. I've been troubleshooting something to do with his reverse drive, which I need to have in place for the differential turning. And right now the calibration between the 4 different motors is just a little bit off. So I've been going back and forth with the support team for RoboClaws, and they've given me a few tips. So I need to try those and see if I can get the motors nicely matched, and that will then have ROVer ready for these. So hopefully tomorrow. stay tuned. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you the next time. Cheers.